My name is Pavan. I represent ArrayShield Technologies. Presentation. So the business problem that I would like to spend some time is on weak authentication. So all of us in each enterprise use some form of authentication to identify the user. So all of us are very well aware of the common form of authentication, that is password. But unfortunately, passwords are a very weak form of authentication. They have outlived their utility long back, and there is a burning need for organizations to move from passwords to a better form of authentication. Passwords per se can be easily cracked using so many techniques. The passwords people end up noting down somewhere, and there are huge number of challenges with passwords. Because of this, there are huge amount of identity theft that is happening with enterprises, and the numbers that is related to identity theft for enterprises is mind-boggling. And it's not only about the money that is lost, it's about the company's reputation that is at stake whenever there is identity theft, and the countless number of hours that the IT team spends in resolving the issue. And also, of course, the brand is at stake too. Let's take very sample scenarios that all of us can relate to. There is a sales employee who has a CRM and has a password that he accesses from outside the network. And if that password is compromised, the whole company's profitability, the revenue is like visible to a competitor or a hacker who can publish it online. Similarly, ex-employees who join competitors can get access of the previous data if they know their friend's password, etc. And it's not only a global phenomena. India is also seeing like a lot of attacks in this space. So where we come from? So ArrayShield is a two-factor authentication product that can provide security to enterprises and secure them from identity theft. It provides very high level of security and protect the enterprise data. At the same time, it helps in organizations achieving compliance, meet the regulatory guidelines and certifications, and also reduce costs. So people consider security as an extra cost, but in fact, security can help reduce costs, because like all organizations spend a lot of time, money in password research, etc. Right? Administrative time is getting stuck, and whenever there is a hacking attack, there is a huge amount of loss that happens as well. And with better security, a lot of applications can be exposed outside, so more business productivity, more employee satisfaction as well. And all this drives the business acceleration. So let me get into how our product fits in to the enterprise in achieving this. So passwords, all of us know, is nothing but a sequence of characters that we remember. We come up with a very different way of looking at this password, wherein we say why we remember a sequence of characters. Let's remember a sequence of shapes in a grid, which is much more intuitive. So you can see a 5x5 grid displayed there. User can remember the second row as a shape. Right? It's much more convenient. In fact, a lot of us, when we go to ATMs and try to enter passwords, we don't remember password, but we press our hand there, automatically we move. So that's how human brains are trained in remembering things. So this is much more easier way to do things. So that forms the one factor of authentication in our solution. Along with that, there's a second factor of authentication, which is a card. This is a credit card sized card. It's like can be put in user's purse, can be carried wherever the user goes. It is unique in terms of a transparent, opaque cells that are there in the card. As you can see, there are some opaque cells with values like 3W, etc. And the rest of the cells are transparent, where you can see through. So this is how card looks like. So this forms the second factor of authentication, what user has with him. The first factor, the pattern that we see, is what user knows. With these two forms of authentication, user can derive a dynamic password. Let's see how it happens. So whenever user wants to authenticate, it can be a web application, CRM, ERP, or it can be a VPN, remote access, or it can be a consumer-facing application as well. We typically have a username, password in the screen. Along with that, there is a grid displayed that is powered by our application, which has a dynamic set of values displayed on it that generated from server. Every time this application opens up, different set of values come there. And user overlaps the card onto the screen. He places it at the corner on the laptop, on the computer, on the tablet, and there's an overlap that happens. So wherever there is transparent cells, you can see behind the values on the screen, and wherever there is opaque cells, you can see what is there on the card. And user initially has registered a pattern. Here in this case, we have taken the second row. So the values in the second row, AHVT5, becomes the one-time password. So next time user accesses, different set of values come because the grid is dynamic, and the card is unique to each user. So this will be, has 3 dynamic elements inbuilt. The grid changes every time. The card is unique to each user, and pattern is something user remembers. So this provides very high level of security against even the advanced hacking attacks that can compromise the traditional two-factor authentication like tokens. So where we provide, in terms of the features that the product offers, it can integrate with any enterprise application. It's a platform that has the APIs that can be integrated with, like a VPN. It supports the Radius protocol. It supports the web APIs for any web application. It can be integrated. As I said, it offers high level of security, and it doesn't need the user to remember any password, so much more easier and convenient to user as well. In terms of benefits that it offers to enterprises, because it's only card which is very low cost component, it's like the overall cost of ownership would be lesser than a kind of a token or other two-factor authentication alternatives. And more importantly, it reduces the risk and provides peace of mind to the key people in the organization. And it supports, helps in complying with multiple regulations and certifications as well. Because of the higher security, the applications can be opened up and can be accessed from anywhere. So that way provides mobility to the user. Until he has the card, he can access the application from anywhere. And also end user will not need to remember any passwords. So in terms of the return on investment that the solution provides, any security breach involves huge amount of cost. So considering the probability that security breach happens, etc., organizations can benefit with a very high ROI for this kind of solutions. In terms of specific applications where this solution provides protection to an enterprise, as we discussed, it will provide the VPN access, server logins, which has like huge confidential data hosted on the server, and people log in remotely to get the access to the data. Similarly, corporate email, enterprise applications, as well as consumer-facing applications. So predominantly it's enterprise focused, but it can be extended to consumer-facing applications as well. So we also support cloud. We support SAML protocol, wherein cloud applications can also be protected. So with cloud and remote accessing becoming norm, a lot of data is exposed outside, and only the user authentication is the link between the user and the data. So if hacker can compromise authentication, the whole data is at stake. So that this becomes much more relevant in today's scenario. So just give an example case study on how a solution can potentially help organization. So this case study is regarding MRF. So they have VPN users, like all the senior people and who travel, use the VPN to connect to the network to access a lot of internal data. And they had the challenge that they don't want to give this access to many people, because if one of that gets compromised, so they have like huge business impact. So that though they have a VPN, they in fact are not opening up to a lot of users. And there was so many requests coming up from the business side saying that we want remote access, but the IT team wants that whole access to be protected. So that's when they looked at our solution, and we had a POC, and then they rolled out to all their users. Now with our solution, they are opening up to much more number of users, so that so that way the business teams are very happy that they're able to get the remote access whenever they need. So that's it from my side. Open to your inputs and suggestions on how we can pitch to a target audience.
So you use the card into what? Is there a reader that comes?
So the card is just overlap. So user enters the values physically on using keyboard, the values in the pattern. So card is just masking that does the grid on the screen. So there is no physical reader or anything needed. It just needs to be placed on top of it.
Oh, okay.
So, what happens if you lose the card?
So we have a self-service portal wherein user can come and say he has either forgotten the card, lost the card. So then we have mechanisms where, for example, if he has forgot the card, that day he didn't bring it to the office, then he can request for saying that he has forgot the card for that day, and there is a registered email ID for which we send a virtual card copy in email, which is different, and it's only valid for one day. So until he gets the card back the next day, he can use it. Similarly, if it's a new card, lost card, until new card gets shipped, he can be using the temporary card.
And how do you prove that it is as secure as a token?
Yes, sir. So the thing is that there are new class of attacks, like real-time replay attacks, which in fact compromise the token-based authentication. So when we have the tokens, which has a one-time code on the token that is valid for 3 minutes. So if the hacker user's computer is compromised using advanced malware, and he enters the username and this one-time code, the malware, what it does, it stops the communication from the user machine to the server. So server does not know that user has entered it, and hacker sends this, and the malware sends this to hacker. So hacker within the 3 minutes, real time, plays it back. So it's called real-time replay attack, which compromises the traditional authentication, token-based authentication. Whereas our system is a two-way authentication. So there is a challenge response that is happening. The grid comes from the server. So even if that one-time code is captured and hacker captures it and tries to replace, the grid that he sees would be different. So that way, for real-time replay attacks, we provide much more security.
Let me ask.
Yeah.
So most of the devices that people are carrying are typically their personal devices now.
Right.
And I think the world is moving from what I'm aware of. If I look at an RSA,
Yeah.
they used to have the key fob.
Right.
The key fob then moved to, you could generate the number on your smartphone.
Right.
And from there now it has actually moved to, it's actually on my device now.
Right.
So everybody is moving to removing the number of things that we have to carry, because the only thing we remember to carry is our smartphone.
Right.
And what you're asking me is now I have to carry one more thing.
Right. That's very true, sir. Very good question. So,
Why would people be interested in carrying one more thing at the end of the day? Because I want it simpler.
Absolutely. I'll come to that. So in traditional, as you said, token has moved to a mobile phone itself, a smartphone itself.
Yeah.
The whole concept of smartphone as a two-factor authentication, what they say is, I'm using the application access through my laptop, right? And the second factor is my mobile phone. Now I'm accessing the application through smartphone itself. So I have an app which generates one-time password on the smartphone is not considered a second factor, because anyway that smartphone will get compromised. Right? So in that case, smartphone will not be providing the additional level of security.
Just a correction.
Yeah.
Smartphone generates 8 numbers. You still have 4 private numbers that the smartphone does not generate. That's private to you.
Right.
So the smartphone is not generating the entire number sequence.
Right,
it's typically prefixed by 4 numbers that might be in your head.
Absolutely. So the password, that is the password that you are mentioning. Right?
No,
it's
PIN. Not the password.
PIN.
It's a PIN number.
Yeah, PIN. So PIN can be compromised if there is a small keylogger. We enter that, we are going to enter it again and again.
Okay.
So I truly agree to your point, but the thing is, now organizations are saying, okay, smartphone is my primary device, so how can I consider that as a two-factor? So that is also a challenge. One way it's an opportunity, but at the same time it's a challenge. So that way something user has with him makes more sense.
So won't he lose the same thing? Can't he lose the same thing too?
Yeah, so he can lose this, right? But it's only one factor, so that's the whole thing. There are
the
two
other
factors.
one is the pattern, right?
Yes, right.
But the pattern can't be seen from far away?
It can't be seen.
I can easily see it, right?
No, it's not. We don't. See, in Android phone, we kind of key in that, right?
Right.
Here, it's not like you need to enter that. The values in that pattern, you need to enter in the keyboard, keypad. So even if somebody sees what you're entering, they have to map like what is there on the card, what is there on the screen, right? And you enter A, they need to see all 30 cells, where is A coming from, right? So that way it provides.
Aren't you making it more difficult for people to get to their systems?
It's much more easier. So in fact, because pattern is something very seamless. You just remember L shape. Right?
Yeah.
But for a hacker, it's very difficult. For you, it's very simple. Than like remembering 1875 and having 10 such things for 10 different things.
Okay, so moving on from the product concept, as a company, you want to focus on the product or also focus on the integration aspects? Because you said the background, behind the scenes, this will have to be integrated with the aspects.
So the thing is, we being an infrastructure component in IT security, so ours as a standalone product doesn't have any relevance. So only if we can provide protection to all the applications, then because enterprise doesn't want to take our product only for CRM and not for like some other application. So that way our focus is being that we build a platform with all the APIs. So we support with all the standard Radius, SAML, authentication protocols, and provide the web APIs, etc., cloud-based, etc., to provide the thing. And also we are working with the product companies. So for example, we have a couple of OEM partnerships signed with banking companies, identity access management, where we do this as a product integration within their offering itself.
So what happens to the SI companies? I mean, are you also building partnerships with SI companies?
Right.
Because in a lot of these cases,
Right.
the end-to-end solution is provided by a company,
Right.
and he chooses the right set of products.
So ours is completely channel model. So we have distributor, system integrator. We work with distributor SIs in India, Taiwan, Korea, and multiple regions. So we work with SIs, and when they propose an end-to-end solution, they also position ours as a part of it.
One question.
Yes.
The pattern can be changed, is it?
Yes. So user selects the pattern first time he accesses the system, and at any point of time, he can change the pattern.
He can change it.
Yes.
The doubt which I only had was that is this sustainable?
Okay.
How sustainable it is? How easy it is for someone to copy this idea and start competing with you?
Right. So we have the patent. We have filed a patent in India, US, etc. So that is one entry barrier. And at the same time, it's not only about the technology per se. It's also about building the platform with all the integrations, etc., which we built over 2 years. So that certainly somebody has to go through that curve. And our other thing is existing companies in this space can also add on this as one of them.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Well, never mind. I said, Pavan, that it doesn't have to be a sales pitch, but looks like you may just be able to exchange a few cards and get the next appointment with some of the gentlemen here. And that will be a happy thing, right? So.